going to lift my arm up and then snap it down. And the faster you make this transition from the legs up in the front to back down, the more power you ultimately get through your shoulders, flinging you up over the top of the rings. We're gonna go over the basic principles about how a kipping ring muscle up works and how I like to coach it. First thing I want everybody to understand is there are main reasons why people do not make their ring muscle ups, and we will go about that later in this video. Now, the number one thing that you need to understand is that kipping movements are using lower body weight and momentum to do work for the upper body. If you are attempting to do a kipping ring muscle up and you don't create momentum, you have no fuel in order to do the muscle up. So, the momentum is coming from the lower body, creating speed and power, and that power needs to be moved from the lower body to the upper body, because the goal is not to get the lower body high, but to get the shoulders over the top of the rings. Now, what creates lower body momentum? It's the swing. Typically on a kipping ring muscle up, you jump, you kick your legs out, you get a back swing, and you go. You need to be able to create a lot of power in just those three little parts, the kick, the backswing, and the forward swing, in order to have enough power to transfer to your upper body for the entire muscle up. Now, the ring swing itself is not ultra complicated, but what we want to do is think about a golf club. We want to take a golf club and swing and create a ton of power through the end, and that way it hits the ball far. Our legs are going to be the end of the golf club, and we want to use our feet to create the power that would be at the end of the golf club. The ring swing itself, you want to concentrate on and work on it as its own movement in order to produce this power. The more you weigh in your upper body, the more momentum you're going to have to produce. That means that if you have a big, bulky upper body and lower body is quite small, your lower body is going to have to be moving a lot faster to create enough power to move the bulk of your upper body. If you're the other way around and you've got large lower body, it's going to take less effort because there's more mass moving that direction to move the lighter upper body. So everybody is going to be a little bit different on this. Depends on your proportions as far as length of leg and upper body and how much you weigh lower body to upper body. Additionally, we're going to need to get on top of the rings, and so there's a little bit of mobility there. Once you have the ring swing power, we need to harness that. As your legs come swinging through, what I like to teach is a backward leg drive. Don't think hip extension. Thinking about the hips will cause your hips to rise, but doesn't necessarily mean that you are absorbing the energy from your feet. Once your feet come swinging through, we're going to yank them the backward direction, and that's going to cause this ripple effect through your body that transfers into your shoulders. Once your upper body is whipping over the top, it's just up to your positioning at that point to get up and over via hip hinge or curling up into a ball, whatever seems to work best for you. But I recommend more like a V up to get over the top and get your hands into position. Ultimately, we want our feet as low beneath the rings as absolutely possible, because the more horizontal our body is, the harder it's going to be to transition because there is more distance to transition. The distance itself will take time. By that point, your momentum going against gravity is now losing the battle and will be pulling down. Keeping our body low will create a small amount of rotation necessary in the upper body in order to put the hands beneath the biceps where they belong. Keeping the feet low is going to make for a quick transition. There's a couple spots that people struggle the most with the ring muscle up. We're going to look at the ring swing first. People tend to overarch. By arching your legs back behind you, it creates a shortening of the distance between your hands and your feet will whip more downward than they will produce power going forward. By swinging this way, you feel a heavy tug at the bottom of your swing and much heavier and more abrupt than that of a longer stretched body. Finding your body position in the ring swing can be a little bit difficult, especially if you're not really familiar with where your body is in space, because the legs tend to do whatever they want when they're off the floor. So make sure that when you are doing this and trying to work on this ring swing, that you video yourself like you see the video here, and watch the length of the legs. Make sure that they stay as far away from your hands as possible, and avoid bending in the knees. Bending in the knees absorbs some of that momentum that should ultimately lift your torso up to create more downward forward swing and momentum for the rest of your muscle up. On the forward swing, people have a tendency to let their feet go too high. Their feet will swing with a lot of power, but then they focus on pulling the rings toward their body instead of what should happen next. What should happen next when their feet come forward is to snap them backward. I'll show you with the rope to give you kind of a visual of how this works, but essentially you want your feet to go forward, snap them backward, and that creates the hip extension, where the hips are just connecting the power from your legs to your shoulders, and that power rolls through your body and flicks your upper body over the top. If my body were the rope and my legs come swinging through the bottom forward in the forward swing where I'm going to start the muscle up, if I don't stop them immediately and pull them backward, this is kind of what happens. My legs come forward and you see a little bit of power move through. This is your body. You see a little power move through, but it doesn't necessarily affect the very end point that much. What we want to do is to create as much of a ripple of the power as possible. So even the end on this rope has a metal piece down there. Even on the end, we can get it to move quite quickly, and that would represent our shoulders during the ring muscle up. I'm going to lift my arm up and then snap it down. And the faster you make this transition from the legs up in the front to back down, the more power you ultimately get through your shoulders, flinging you up over the top of the rings. This looks a bit ridiculous, but I will show you it's kind of like doing the worm on your back on the floor. Finally, there are two parts to the ring muscle up. There's the part that's beneath the rings, and then once you're on top. What we want is to get enough power from beneath the rings to surpass the height of the rings, and then the dip position, we should be able to be lower than that. And the difference between these two positions, the lowest part of the dip and the highest part of the kipping ring muscle up, that is room for error. So when you start fatiguing and maybe you don't get as much height going up, you still have a very low dip that you can find, get yourself into position to finish the rep. A lot of the time, people have a hard time getting enough height. Maybe they get just enough to get over the top of the rings, but once they're in that low catch position, they don't have the strength to dip up out of that. And yeah, it's great that you can get on top of the rings, but you do want to finish the rep. So it's really necessary to work on the dip strength from that low catch position. I do have a beginner's free guide for kipping ring dips. Highly recommend everybody works on this because mobility and strength in that low catch position is absolutely necessary for a worst case scenario on a kipping ring muscle up. But imagine if you can just get enough height to barely get over the top of the rings, and then you get enough depth on your ring dip to catch and to be able to press up. Even in a worst case scenario, you will still be able to make that one last or your first ring muscle up.